Oh, can you bring this up?
No.
Oh, we'll
Okay.
just leave it there.
Yeah.
All right. Well, hello, everybody. Thank you so much for coming. Again, my name is Phoenix. Thank you for introducing us, Pat. Uh, Leo, that's
Yeah.
him.
Thank you so much, Pat.
Uh, the opening screen you have here is showing just a little bit of what we were working with. The books on the counter is just a scatter of some of the collection. You'll see much more of it as we go through the presentation. And on the other side is a photograph of the beach that Frank Latta partially owned when he did the ranching, which was also the museum. We'll go more into that later. Um, so who was Frank Latta? So Frank Latta was a California ethnographer and historian that worked on different aspects throughout California history, specifically focusing on different. Well, he's known for different books that he's written, such as Handbook of the Yokuts, as well as California 49ers, and the book Walking Marietta and His Horse Gangs. A lot of Frank Latta's material has been published and is actively used in the public eye, but much of his material, such as his private journals, is now being discovered through situations like this. Also, besides being a writer, he also was a collector and museum runner. He ran a museum in Pescadero, as well as a small camp and a ranch. All right. Again, here's a yeah, that was just a list of his different books. Right here is a photograph of Frank Latta. He is the baby, not the adult. Um, uh, Frank Latta ended up uh, in Santa Cruz County towards the end of his life. Uh, he also, yeah, let me just look at this for a second. Yeah, he ended up in Santa Cruz County towards the end of his life. That's where he ended up in Pescadero at first, and then ended up moving to High Street. We'll go into that later. The way that I kind of got into this work was I was taking a archaeological and anthropology class last year when I first transferred to UCSC, and I was told about Frank F. Latta by my professor at the time, uh, Raina, who was curious about what happened to the collection there because she used to go there as a kid and camp on that property. So I dove into it, reached out to the family, and now we're here.
So yeah, as Phoenix mentioned, Lotta had moved to Pescadero in the mid 50s to a place called Gazos Ranch where he purchased the property with plans in mind for that property. He knew that he wanted to have a museum that featured his collections of, historical materials and artifacts, as well as even making the space available for the public in the form of like a campground. Um, Near the end of his life, though, he eventually had to move into Santa Cruz. The ranch idea didn't quite work out. He eventually, unfortunately, passed away in the early 80s. But the journals we have today and that we've been working with actually are centered during that time of him being in Pescadero from around just in the late 1950s to 1970. Yeah, so it's those journals are focused kind of at that time of him being near Santa Cruz at Pescadero, sort of trying to curate this area where he can display his his collections and then um, yeah, host a campground for the public.
So, a description of the books. This is the exciting part. Uh, the majority of his journals were red. He also had black books. They were always vinyl, and he would buy them in bulk. Sometimes he would buy the exact same year several times. For instance, he bought three 1964s, and he would cross out the inner number and then change it, which made it very confusing for me trying to keep track of all the 1964s he had. Yes, the outside is a red or black vinyl. The very first book he had was a much like smaller, darker red vinyl. Doesn't matter at all. Just thought it was interesting. And the inside paper was lined, and he, although having a very large space to work with, would often rip out pages and then tape them to the bottom. So you would fold it out and have a much longer explanation. And for that reason, it took a very long time to scan some of these pages. Uh,
So going into this, when we started this project, we much initially set our goal as creating a digital collection to be stored at areas of interest, organizations who have, archival capabilities, and even we've soon learned that archiving even digital material, is no walk in the park. It takes a lot of resources and work hours, people, volunteers, and then even just physical material, even. Um, and we thought that having this collection, instead of housed in one specific location, having it spread out and having it accessible to people would is something that we wanted to strive for. Also, to go along with that was giving our club members a way to get some hands-on work, in anthropology and starting something that we could do sort of with everyone in the club. I think Phoenix mentioned before that we started doing this pretty soon after we founded the club. So it seemed like a perfect opportunity to do something, as a group.
okay. So, analyzing Latta's notes. Latta, his books are kind of complicated. Each one was a daily description of his life. So it would usually start out with what he had for breakfast, how long he was walking the dog, descriptions of how bad traffic was that day. Not the most interesting stuff on the planet, but inner space between each page would be notes that would give insights into his writings. So he would describe different anthropologists that he's been working with. Sometimes he would tape in letters with people that he was working with at Stanford or Berkeley. So you had a lot of information that's incredibly useful, especially to not only like understand the deeper like behind the scenes of his personal work and the books that he was writing, but also just history and Pescadero at that time, because he was explaining uh, car accidents in some parts. He was explaining like historical events, and he would cut out and tape in newspaper articles, a lot of newspaper articles of just different events that were happening at the time. So a lot of his notes are like spaced out, but you have to read through all of the day to day. And then hidden in that would be something very fascinating. And so there's a lot to go through. Yeah, cool. So, okay. So basically, this matters because we can not only understand the material and then give the greater anthropological community access to them, but also this is a way for the family to kind of reach out to the community. These books have been in storage for since his death, so it's kind of a way to uh, make them accessible so they're not sitting on the bottom drawer in a garage somewhere. Uh, and that was kind of what started this was I was talking with the family and trying to figure out some way that we could assist them. And this was kind of the first thing that came to mind. So we're it's just to make it more accessible for everybody, basically.
Um, yeah, and just to kind of go into what we're facing in terms of like actually preserving these types of collections. I think this slide would have been better entitled "What We're Facing" or things that are happening in California right now. There was a report written for the California State Library just last year that talked about collections such as these being under threat by natural disasters, with California being obviously a wildfire hotspot in the country. Even amount of storage that there is left for materials such as this, even decay of materials, over time. And then even something like funding to, storing something like this takes money, as do most things. Things like organization. The report writes about how kind of heritage organizations some oftentimes don't work with a like a plan in place, and if they do, it's possibly outdated. And you could even point to public investment as well in work like this, having people, you know, giving their time to, to manage these types of collections, to store them properly and to maintain them, takes care and dedication. And some of these organizations have a staff that is largely volunteers. Um, and so, yeah, so these are kind of the things that are happening in California that revolve around some of the work that we're trying to get into, and it's things that we should keep in mind for the future. Along with that goes, like I mentioned before, that having digital data requires, material infrastructure to keep it maintained and to keep it stored for long periods of times. Maintenance and having, people on hand, and then keeping, technology up to date as well is something to consider. Making sure that these are preserved, um, in multiple places over time and are backed up on different forms of media is important to consider. And when we do talk to places that have an interest in taking, a copy of these collections, we should um, we should be informed on how they plan to store them, maintain them, and even something when you're talking about technology, considering carbon footprint as well is a big deal. And so going further into this, these are kind of the things that we're trying to think about and to make this, you know, a more well-rounded, you know, focused on the ethics and how it's more efficient and easily done.
Uh,
I have a question. Should we put documents in one place for a short period of time? Can you expand on that?
Oh, I guess that's getting at kind of how the journals were previously, in family storage, sort of unknown to the public. And
They're
yeah,
not recommending.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Which is the fate of a lot of anthropological field notes. So it's good to, this is kind of a first attempt of digitizing them. And then we're hoping to work with more people and eventually create a database that the club can work on with people. All right, this is the fun part. I can describe the scanner. The scanner is a very fancy piece of equipment. It has a foot pedal, so I feel like I'm driving a car when I use it. It does high quality, high definition scans, so you can get both scans done at the exact same time. You do need to use a photo guide, or a photo scale, which is in the corner there. There'll be another photo later on. But basically, when you are taking a scan, you straighten out the pages to get them as flat as physically possible, use the foot pedal under the table, and then you press down, turn, continue. It's not complicated, it's just highly repetitive. Yeah. This is the scanner. This is the photo guide, or the so the reason why I say photo guide is because the scanner itself focuses on specific colors to identify where the edge of the paper is. So every time that we use the scanner that we're using, we need to use this little yellow thumb ring, basically. You put it in the corner of the page. It helps you flatten out the page and then you snap a shot. We also wear gloves because this paper, which I should have pointed out earlier, is acid paper. It's acidic paper. It does damage your skin over time. Also, it's a really good reason to digitize this material because it will eventually break down. Um, Also, you got to wear masks. I got sick doing this. It turns out that there are a lot of spores in these books that have been sitting alone for a long period of time. And I learned pretty quickly that you can get a respiratory infection. And I ended up being sick for about a month after starting this project. Did not stop me. I just wore a mask, but it was a bit of a treacherous thing, but you learn from your mistakes. Um, but yeah, so main takeaways: wear a mask, wear gloves, use the photo guide, and don't forget to fully press down on the pedal under the table, or you won't get the photo and you have to reset. So,
It helps to take your shoe off too,
oh
because you
yeah.
really want to make sure you're getting a good click.
No,
Yeah.
it's actually true. Like I started it wearing my shoes. I learned flip-flops and bare socks. Perfect thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And so as we mentioned, kind of a secondary goal was to kind of further analyze the writings. And I think I'll skip forward to just show you a little bit of what. So here's kind of some of Lotta's writing right here. To our, young, untrained eyes, cursive, isn't the easiest for us to read. I know, I admit, and I apologize. Um, yeah, so, and keep in mind that there are thousands of pages like this as well. So getting this in, a type of text that's easier for us to read would be more efficient. And actually, the humanities department at UCSC, someone in the history department, told us about this tool, Trileo.ai, which is a AI-driven OCR tool, which stands for optical character recognition. And this tool was developed by former Cambridge students, John Cooper, Jack Weston. And so it has kind of similar foundations as your general AIs like ChatGPT, except it's more focused on text recognition. And it utilizes machine learning. So it is trained on, vast amounts of text samples, text being, in different languages, different types of script, all kinds of things. And then with each use of it, right, as people around the world use it more and more, it's continuously learning and just getting better at its job. So we've started using this, and sort of the initial process is that it removes distortion in the writing, or in our case, like kind of like the image that we take with the scanner. If there's distortion, it'll try and clean that up. It'll align text, brighten its contrast, and then move on to recognition, which entails the image being broken down into, numerical patterns, or broken down, digitally even further than just, an image. And it recognizes relationships between parts of the text and patterns, and can even look for attributes such as like, the curves in text, intersecting lines to try and sort of, make out which letters are being seen by this AI. And if you're looking for real further in-depth explanation, I'm not your guy. I try to do my best for you all. I'm not a super tech, I'm not a savant in tech world, but
We do not do AI. We
but
just used it.
um we do make these scans, and I'll show you a picture actually now of what this kind of looks like. Um so this was an entry that we suspect actually was from Lotta's wife, because you might notice that the cursive um is a little more refined. And so on your right, yes, on your right, then this is what kind of the output of the AI is. Yeah, just like any, Google Doc sort of text, much easier to read for us. And kind of just like trying to cross-reference them in our own time, with the few scans that we've done, it seems to be, upwards of 90% correct. Just reading the cursive on our own, we can make out some of it, and sort of making comparisons with the text that we're given from the AI, it seems to be, a decent estimation of what the page is actually saying. So it's definitely helped us, read through what Lotta's been writing very significantly.
Ah, yes. One of my favorite parts about this is that we are not just working with the journals. We're trying to digitize the journals. We're learning little bits of information as we go through. It's going to take a lot longer to learn everything we can from the journals, and that will probably be pushed on to another student going forward if someone wants to do a master's or something on the life of Frank Latta. But I love talking to people. And one of my favorite parts about this is Lotta's family, or a lot of it, still live in Santa Cruz County. So we're lucky enough to not only talk with Atticus Lotta, he is the family member that donated the books to us, but also Martha Latta, who was um, Latta's granddaughter, and was able to tell us a lot about life on the ranch and what it was like visiting him. We learned quite a bit about how he was with his family through these interviews, and we have handwritten notes, which we're going to place with the journals when we do present them to archives. So we have a little bit of a comparison of first person account and then Lotta himself. But what we did learn is that he had an interesting relationship with his family. He was very into California history when it came to people he worked with and students that were interested from UCSC and other places, but especially towards the end of his life. But he did not tell his family about the projects that he had worked on very much. He did have a separation. When they would come up to him, he would change the subject and wouldn't really give them too much material or tell them stories about that kind of stuff. He kind of focused on the daily life aspect, and he didn't really inform them too much about his research, which I thought was an interesting thing that we learned from Martha.
Yeah. If you were, you know, a budding student and you seeked him out, he would then lock both of you in a room and just spill his guts to you. What is what Martha said.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely. He loved to talk just mostly to people that seemed to be really interested. And if you didn't show that interest, he wouldn't, fill you in on it. Uh, yeah, so mainly he would just focus on life at the ranch. One of the main things that stood out to me that Martha covered, and I think is a good time to say it, was he used to like to hunt rattlesnakes. So he used to go horseback and not only give tours, like this shot here is actually him giving some tours. Oh my God, tours via horseback for visitors on the ranch. But he would go out and hunt rattlesnakes in his spare time. And he had a jar on the side of the door where he'd keep the tails, which is kind of horrible, but also thought that was an interesting insight into his hobbies. Okay, so this is another chance to look at how difficult it is to read some of his notes. But again, using the AI, we've been able to decipher some of it. Also, I did learn cursive before they stopped teaching it, so I can read cursive. Uh, a lot of people after me can't, but I can. I'm just slow. One thing that I did cover before was that most of this is just daily life material. So the majority of this text here is just talking about life on the ranch and working on the ranch. The majority of the pages, just his daily life. Once in a while, you'll get nuggets of information about his past studies, but it's not constant. You really have to surf through the material. Yeah.
Yeah, and also in the journals, I think Phoenix mentioned before, tons of newspaper clippings. This is just one example, but there's things that talk about, you know, recipes. I think even one article about how to deal with a teenage child, because as Martha was 17 years old around the time that
Yeah.
the story she was telling us about her on the ranch. Yeah, she was definitely a teenager.
He taped it in there. He was like, how to deal with troubled teenage kids.
Yeah.
I was like, that's hilarious.
Um, and we hear or we read stories about him interacting with strangers coming to try and access the beach, you know. So, you know, I mentioned the campground he was hoping to sort of set up. Um, he kind of, you know, without any official status, began to do that. He would allow people to camp on the ranch, allow people to access it and get to the beach. And you might see that I have written down case of the missing hubcaps because there was an instance where he did let a couple down on the beach. Later on in the day, he was walking around the ranch and noticed that some of the hubcaps were missing from his truck. And he could only suspect that it was two strangers that he led onto his property who then walked off with the hubcaps. So yeah, I guess if you're allowing people on your ranch like that, you got to expect a couple things to go missing from time to time.
Oh, yes. All right. One of our biggest mysteries that we've been trying to work with while reading these books is that Frank Latta kept almost a daily like marker in the corner of his books where he would write neon lights. Then he would write the time stamp of how long that he would see them, and then he would describe and draw the designs that they made. What was very interesting to us is we don't know what he was talking about. Um, we have read the journals. We have been trying to figure this out. It's still a mystery. We have a couple students working on it. What we do know is that he was having some eye problems at the time, especially later in life. Martha thought it could have been some like flares that he was seeing in his eyes as he got older. But what was really fascinating about it is on one of the last pages of one of the books, he did a full description of not only the neon lights he saw that day, but also what this whole explanation of how he thought they could have been the inspiration for some basket designs by the Yokuts, which is interesting. And we don't know much more than that. Basically, that was something that he wrote as a side note in his journal. There's no information to back it. We're just trying to figure out what he meant. We do believe that it was probably something to do with his vision as he lost it over time. And he was seeing markings and he was making theories based on what he was seeing. But that was also towards the end of his life. Uh, yeah. Oh, yes. One thing that, as we said before, we did talk to Martha, and one thing that I do love about these books is that it's not only photographs and descriptions and sketches, but there's also a lot of things from the kids on the property, his family, his nieces, nephews, and of course, his kids' children. This was a drawing that I found of a lion that was in between one of the pages, and we still don't know who drew it, but I just thought it was very sweet that he was saving little things from his family throughout his life. Uh, as I mentioned before, he did have a relationship with his grandchildren. They came on the property, but they would only come for short periods of time, maybe a weekend, maybe a couple weekends out of the year, and then he wouldn't see them for the rest of that. So they weren't super close, but they did know him. Yeah. Also, that is the note that his eyesight was declining. All right. Oh, yes. So Martha did a couple of descriptions. You can see the rattlesnake hunting. I did already mention that story. He also talked a lot about land management. And one of the stories that she pointed out was the amount of pencils he was sharpening.
Yeah.
I think you know that story better, actually.
She we'd asked her kind of what she would do on a daily basis there, and she would tell us about how just the hundreds of pencils that she would have to sharpen for Frank, or the thousands of nails that needed sorting. Pencils, surely, because he was constantly writing things down. Martha told us how much of just a natural born recorder of things he was, right? And I think you can see that in the journals. He's writing on the margins, like Phoenix said, he's tearing out extra pages and adding them to the journals.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was just some of the daily life on the ranch that Martha shared with us.
Give us insight. This is a photo from the beach across from the ranch property, looking out over the ocean. Just a beautiful view. Yeah.
Um, yeah, so talking about the museum that, it was there and it did have some visitors. It was mainly closer friends that saw it with the collections inside. That didn't last long though, because he did have to sell the property and move himself and his collections to other locations. But in the interview, Martha also remembered the stories of, people coming to the ranch to camp or to access the beach. And I found that very interesting, having the interview with her and having that sort of back up what Frank was writing and vice versa, and just having, sort of two avenues of evidence talking about people coming to the ranch, camping out on it, and sort of, Frank moving forward with his plans of making this like public land for people to come camp and view his collections. And also in that interview, Martha talked about shipwrecks, which Phoenix and I thought was peculiar and very interesting when she told us that the main ranch house she thought could be constructed from salvaged shipwreck material from Franklin's Point, just north of Año Nuevo. Um, Franklin's Point is kind of that smaller point just to the top center of the picture, where also just beyond the actual picture frame is where Lotta's ranch would have been, just right next to Gazos Creek there. She remembers that a windowsill in the house was very reminiscent of a feature on a wooden sail ship. And then again, saying that the shipwrecks were likely to happen at Franklin's Point.
Though I will say we did get we should
Yes,
probably run through that. Yeah. We did find out that wasn't true.
literally
Yeah.
two days ago.
Literally 2 days ago. Unfortunately, although the story was a really good one, it turned out that that was true for other houses in Pescadero, but it wasn't for that specific property. We reached out to Martha before doing this talk. She had talked with her brother, and he backed up that yes, shipwreck did happen out there. Yes, there was wood. And yes, it was used to build, but not on the property, which is still fascinating and pretty well known, but kind of, you know, not to let you guys down. Um, but yes, we did just learn that the other day. That's the one thing about this project is there's a lot of learning from the stories that you're told. You're trying to interpret information without having the backing from the person that wrote it. And there's a lot of updating that you have to do as you go through that because some of the stories that you learn not only written but also are told might not always be true. So it's good to back them up with research. Now, this part is interesting. So while we were talking to Martha, we did discuss Joaquin Marietta and his Horse Gangs, which was a book that was written by Frank Latta. And one thing that we learned in the journals was that there was a man that worked on the property named Joaquin. And she later pointed out, Martha pointed out to us that there was someone that worked with Frank named Joaquin, who was a direct descendant of Joaquin Marietta. At least that's what we were told. And through him writing the book, the family was also gifted these stirrups from the family, and these were part of, at least the story goes, part of the horse gang. We still are trying to learn more about them, but these are the stirrups that were photographed by Martha and photos sent to us.
Birds.
Spurs, sorry, not stirrups. So sorry. But thank you. Yes, spurs.
But yeah, just another instance of something to investigate that we're learning through
Yeah,
the family and through the journals.
that you can get a lot. Ah,
Bells? I don't see bells.
I don't see bells.
Yes.
No, they do they are very well they're very well made, and you guys are welcome to take a look at it later. We can probably bring the photo up afterward. Yes. So say you want to do this yourself. Do a similar project. You have material, you have a large group of people. What is it that we use that you can use going forward? Again, we did this as a learning experience to help the club. So we're happy to tell you exactly what we did so you can, use that information moving forward. We needed a high definition scanner, the CZUR high definition scanner. You need a laptop. I have one dedicated only for this project that I got at Gray Bears. So nothing else is on it, so I don't confuse any material. You need gloves, again, to protect you from the acidic paper. I suggest using kind of a mix of both cotton gloves and rubber gloves. Then you can turn the page, but you're also protected from the oils. Uh, you need the photo scales. You need post-it notes because you're going to learn stuff while you're going through, and you're going to have to constantly keep notes on what you're going through. Also, the post-it notes help with remembering which book is already finished. Put a check on top, place it near the book, not on the book, to kind of remember, keep it all in track. Pens, a large team of volunteers. We have a picture of just a few of them on the bottom level. They're all friends of ours from the archaeology club, and we're very grateful for their support and a lot of patience because it will take a very long time.
What's your estimate on getting through like one book?
Oh, about 2 hours per book. Uh, it's a lot of not only flipping through, but also double checking to make sure that you have the page completely in the shot. There's a lot of going back to make sure that you have all the files scanned. So it usually takes me about 2 hours per book.
And that's not accounting for seeing something interesting and taking a 15-minute detour to just read it over.
That's also not taking into context the books that are mostly newspaper clippings. Some of the books he would fill up with hundreds upon hundreds of newspaper clippings. And his wife, whose journals are also in the collection, but there's not as many of them, she put in a very large quantity of newspaper clippings. So it's photographing and scanning each one on both sides, which really takes the most time.
So I guess to begin to sum up, both of us and a lot of the club members just are super fortunate and feel very grateful to being allowed to, work with the journals, the personal journals of Frank Latta, and to gain, really a deeper insight into how he thought about things, how he saw the world, and what he thought was worth recording. And we get to definitely see someone who is just obsessed with writing things down and wanting to have everything, written down, recorded for, what reason. I'm not exactly sure that, I'm not going to speculate on why he personally thought things should be written down, but he wanted to record them. And I think it just speaks to the fact that he was, such a gifted writer and interviewer and historian and photographer.
So the benefits of interacting with the living ancestors, the people that are, well, the living members of the Lotta family, as I said before, it just gives you more insight into the books. It also allows us to kind of double check a lot of the material inside the books. This is a fantastic opportunity not only to work with the family, but also work with students, especially undergrads that might not have a project that they can access. This is kind of a good way to put your feet in the water because although it's not traditional archaeological work, we do learn a lot about the historic context of these locations, and they do translate directly into the archaeological records. So it's a fantastic resource for future people, especially different students that want to learn about Pescadero and anything about Frank Latta that he might not have published should be in these notes. Also, by doing this project, we've created new relationships. We've been working directly with the Santa Cruz Natural History Museum and the Pigeon Point Lighthouse. They both agreed to take copies of the digitized material for their collections. And through doing that, we've also made relationships for future projects that the club can continue on in the next few years. So it's been a wonderful experience for all of us. Also, this is our poster. We we went to the SCA's. It's a Society for California Archaeology conference, and we presented this very same project for them. And we're very grateful to present it to all of you. And thank you for listening. And this is just what our poster looked like. Exact same material, but I just thought it was good to give a little visual aid. Yeah. All right. Next steps. So after this whole project is finished, after we've digitized the majority of the leftover books, we're going to continue scanning documents. So our plan is to try and track down more material of Frank Latta's, and after this project is done, other anthropological material that would be important to have digitized for different collections. Uh, we want to transcribe the documents. So the Frank Latta material, we want to have the Ask Leo AI copy right next to the physical piece so you can compare and contrast. That way you can also double check the AI because it will not be 100% accurate, but it is a good way to help students, especially ones that can't read cursive. And since it is no longer taught in schools, it's good for the next generation of students that are just really learning about this. Um, we're planning on visiting the ranch house. I've been contacting the uh, owner of the property now. It was turned into a mushroom farm and then recently retired as a mushroom farm. So we're trying to get permission from the landowner to do a tour of the property, and that seems to be going well. So we'll see what day we actually get to go there. We do hope to track down more journals. We've got some leads to some locations, so we're hoping that we can do that soon and then bring these copies to institutions in a digitized manner. So when these eventually do break down, tragically, I do believe they will because of the acid paper, all that material is still existent and it's in multiple locations. So if one institution no longer has it for some reason, another one does. So we're trying to put it in as many places as possible.
And I think the image is a good example of sort of what you're hit with when you start opening these journals. Just things stuffed inside the journals. There's newspapers, there's even letters. Yeah, all kinds of things.
He did keep one of everything in his life. So you'll have tickets for laundry, you'll have just whatever you can think of. There is a piece of it somewhere in that book, and you have to scan all of it and digitize all of it. So there's a lot of material. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Well, they go into historical archaeology, it suggests students learn to read cursive. They're all in there, right? And, they're gonna know how to do it.
Yeah.
We know, we did a lot of interviews of indigenous people all up and down the 17 Valley.
Mhm.
And somewhere, I hope those information of what you got from all those people, I believe it was in the 30s, in the 20s.
Mhm.
Yeah.
When he was doing that, it would be invaluable information. I hope I connected you with that guy in Visalia.
You did.
I think when they had the estate sale, I suspect a lot of that really good material wandered off with researchers.
Yes.
And hopefully is in other archives or in private collections that your research will raise awareness of who he was, and maybe it'll start.
I hope so too. I know when we were at the SCAs with our poster, we had a few people come up to us saying that they recognized the name. We did get one lead of a potential place where some of his notebooks went. We were told that there was a researcher whose name was unknown to the archaeologist we were talking to, but we have his number, so we're going to talk to him. Had a train car out near Sacramento that he was storing some of his old journals. So we're trying to find out where that train car is and if it is Frank Latta. Again, it's stories, so finding out where it went is important. But the lead you gave us is probably the most valuable one. So that's true.
Even though in this book, on Marietta, a lot of that has become very controversial.
Yeah.
When they started checking, he interviewed someone saying that he knew what in Marietta, and when they go to the census information on that person, they discover there's no way he knew what in Marietta. That person hadn't been born yet, or detail.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, yes.
How
In the
much
back.
of the person have you digitized into print?
Only about 14 pages.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is it your intention to use an AI tool to search for specific people or events, or are you going, as you're talking about, so we can skip the breakfast?
Yeah.
To the meat of it?
For sure.
Right, the meat and potatoes.
Yeah. Yeah, we haven't thought about that yet. So, we'll look into that for sure. Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
So right now, once we finish digitizing all the material, we have 7 books left out of the 20 plus books that we started with. Once we finish those, we can just start focusing on using the AI tools, and hopefully we can learn some more material, more context, and update everyone on that once we learn more. But right now, still an early project. We've only been doing it for about 3 months, 4 months now. So it's
Facebook estimated that ever pretty sure looking for material that and belong to Frank Latta, and that you wanted to index of where all this.
right. And we have through doing that and reaching out to people, we've learned of a few museums that have some of his material. The journal's a little bit harder to track down right now, but we do know, for instance, he had a large collection of baskets. Many of them ended up in Sacramento, then the Smithsonian, then Yosemite. So that's where the majority of his collection went. But still, the personal notes and other material is still kind of up in the air. So we're trying to figure that out. Yeah. And he also, so each building, there were 3 main museum buildings. Each one covered a different aspect of California history. You had pre-contact California history. Then you had an automotive barn, which was full of not only Model A's, Model T's, and more modern cars at the time, but also old wagons from the Oregon Trail. Multiple of them were actually used in movies after Latta's museum closed. And those we do know where they are roughly, so we might be able to reach out to the owner of those. And then there was the automotive, the pre-contact, and then there was a museum dedicated to the rest of California history that he could cover. So he basically had a barn that was filled with material from groups of Chinese immigrants from down in Bakersfield. It also had people from, throughout California's history all in one location. And a lot of that material, we're still trying to find out what was there. But we will get back to you on that. That's kind of, we've heard whisperings and we know where some of it is, but still a bit of a mystery.
There's
you
a
have a
question in the
question?
back.
So sorry. Yeah.
I was gonna ask, what are the dates of the journals? When did they start?
Oh, yes.
We have starts on 1959 to I believe 1970.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sometimes he had multiple journals for a year as well.
Yeah.
And the
Really?
Really?
Cool. I'll love to talk. Yeah.
Please do, please do. Still trying to figure out what that meant. So if anyone has insight, please. Yeah.
Are there questions in the chat? Is that what I see keep seeing popping up?
Oh, there are 6.
Yeah, specific question.
Yeah.
Cool.
You're a great granddaughter.
You.
Wonderful.
So had that was very well.
Yeah. Zoe Latta.
Oh, hey. How are you?
Hi, Zoe.
Hi, Zoe. Frank's great granddaughter.
Atticus's sister.
Nice. I was always told he had oh, wonderful. Oh, well, not wonderful. Sorry. If everyone can see that up there, that was oh yes, we can.
Okay, well,
can you read it
from Zoe? It says, "I'm Frank's great granddaughter, Martha Latta's niece, and Atticus's sister. I was always told that he had ocular migraines and that what he called ocular migraines, and she had heard about the neon lights. I assume getting at what we were told that, well, his vision was a likely culprit for the neon lights he was seeing, but the ocular migraines is definitely a new bit of information.
That is more information. Thank you very much. We also will reach out to you because it would be wonderful to talk to you more. Um, all right. What else we
Well,
got?
there's a couple.
All right. Bear with
Debbie
us.
Muth says we should go to the Santa Cruz County History Fair.
We are.
We'll be there.
We will be there.
Thank you, Lynn. She says a great project.
Thank you. Wonderful.
And Kimberly Baker has a question slash comment.
Hi,
Go
can
ahead.
you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Hello.
Okay. Hi. So I am from Santa Cruz and I moved to Tuolumne County in 2003, worked for state parks, and I'm retired now. And I've been doing a bunch of history into the Latinos in the gold rush. And so I came across Frank Latta that way because I work for the Historical Society here as a volunteer in Tuolumne County, and he shows up here and there in the Historical Society because of his Joaquin Murrieta research. And so when I saw your presentation, I was very excited. Um, so I'm curious if you have anything. I also lived on the north coast at Año Nuevo. That's where I started my career with state parks up there. So I think I have an idea of where his property was up there, but I'm very interested in seeing what you guys come up with in the scans because I have connections to the land in both places. And he was the only, from what I can tell, Joaquin Murrieta, there's a lot of mythology around it, but he, from what I can tell, was the only person who really actually went to Mexico and tried to actually contact people who may have known some of the key players. So I've found his research very interesting, and I think the Tuolumne County Historical Society might be very interested in whatever you end up scanning if you're willing to share. So.
That would be wonderful. Absolutely. If there's a way for us to maybe type our contact or information into the chat.
Uh-huh.
Is that
I can
okay?
do that.
Can you summarize what you said? Because unfortunately we can't.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Yeah. Okay. Basically, she.
What's your question? Oh, this is one of you.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
She was commenting on how she's worked with state parks and how she has seen Lotta's name come up many times. And then she started mentioning the book on Joaquin Murrieta that Lotta wrote and how to Kimberly's knowledge that he was one of the only people to actually go speak with Latinos or Mexicans about Joaquin Murrieta for his research in his book. And then she mentioned the historical
the interest for the Historical Society in the scans.
yeah.
Well, is that about right, Kimberly?
Yeah, Tuolumne County Historical Society. Yeah.
The Tuolumne County Historical Society. Wonderful. We'll type our contact information in the chat, and if you could reach out to us, that would be wonderful. And send it to you, Zoe, Lotta, because we would love to keep talking with you as we move forward. If that
sounds good. Yep.
Wonderful.
Yeah, in the back.
I'll type this in while we do that.
So following up on that, even though people say that the Joaquin Murrieta book has some flaws and unverified historical accuracy to it or historical notations to it, there are probably no plans to reprint this out of print and very expensive book on the secondary market now. Is that going to be scanned as well and made accessible for research?
That's a great question. So the rights to that book are still in private hands. And I think I sent that off. Great. So I believe that, yeah, that's up to the person that actively owns the book. Though we can reach out. We're trying to talk with him anyway, because he's the person that you got us in touch with. But
Yeah, here.
Yeah. So I'm also just gonna type in my number really quick. Sorry about that.
Yeah, we have just been focusing on the journals really right now, but in terms of like actually looking further into his published works, yeah, we haven't really discussed that as of yet. But
Okay.
yeah, if people have other ideas, like we're all ears,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I did start reading Joaquin Murrieta and his Horse Gangs. It is a fascinating book. I am not too far into it yet. I'm 3 chapters in, but I am enjoying it. Yeah. So on that note, does anyone have any more questions?
So does the family own the publishing rights to this book?
The publishing rights for his books were purchased by I'm trying to remember. Yes. So he purchased all of the publishing rights. Yeah. Those rights are still owned by him. He is still actively publishing some of the books, but not all of them. So I think that's something we got to talk to him about. Yeah.
A
All right.
big book, it's 600 pages.
It really is. Yeah. Like I said,
Respect for all the research you did, that oral interviews with family
Yeah.
members in Mexico. And, there's recently been a new book published last year by the Wolstenegger, which is getting a lot of attention.
Yeah, put a lot of them.
Yeah, right, yeah.
it is a really fascinating book for sure as well. I know I've also read another book I think it's called The Life and Adventures of Joaquin Murrieta. It was by No, it was the one by I think his name was Yellow Bird or Yellow Feather. Is that the
That was the actual, Ridge was Yellowbird,
Yellow Bird?
he
Oh,
was Native American,
yes.
but because he didn't think that they would publish his book, he went by John Long.
There we go. Thank you. I did read that book a couple of years ago because I had a passing interest. I don't know why I pointed that out, but yeah. All right. Yes, we have another question, I think. So,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Kimberly says, Sawmill Flat is 2 miles from my house. I've been doing a lot of deed research on the location. A lot of crazy mythology around the stories. Haha.
All right. Any more questions from anybody? Wonderful.
Well,
Thank you all.
thank you so much
This
for
was
coming.
wonderful.